Welcome in to Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. On today's show, we'll be talking about Joe Schobert as he had a visit with the Seahawks just a couple days ago, and the Seahawks are potentially interested in signing him. We'll tell you all about Schobert in just a few moments from right now. Before we get to that, though, we want to shout out the 12s. Thank you guys so much for helping us reach 29,000 subscribers on the channel. As promised, when we get to 30,000 subscribers, the Gatorade bath is going to happen. Got to get there first. And this week, we are in a sub-battle with my guy, Micro Mike, in Lions Talk. And we don't want to just beat the Lions on the football field. We want to beat them off the football field and show who has the better fan base. So if you haven't already, subscribe to Seahawks Today. Let's show up that Lions fan base. I said that Lions are my favorite Thanksgiving dish. Let's keep the feasting going here all week long. Subscribe to the channel now. Joe Schobert worked out for the Seahawks on Friday afternoon. He was one of three players that actually worked out for Seattle. Seattle also looked at linebacker Blake Lynch and center Marcus Henry, but we want to focus on Schobert in particular today. Now, one thing I want to make note of, too, with Schobert, after spending his first 4 seasons with the Browns, he signed a 5-year, $43.7 million contract with Jacksonville back in 2020. One of the very first things during Urban Meyer's brief stint in Jacksonville, probably the best thing he did when he was there, he was able to trade Schobert to the Steelers and get value out of him. Now, here is the background on Schobert. Previously playing, as we mentioned, for the Steelers and the Jags and also the Browns. He was a Pro Bowler back in 2017 and also tied for the league lead in tackles in 2017. So it wasn't too long ago that we were talking about Schobert playing at a very high level. Now, how would he fit in to this Seahawks scheme? And what does exactly he bring to the table to Seattle? We'll dive into that in just a second. But now it's your turn to be the GM here on Seahawks Today. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it and get your votes in. Before we tell you everything you need to know about Joe Schobert and the Seahawks defense, what do you think? Should they pull the trigger and sign the former Pro Bowl linebacker? If so, type Y for yes. If you're against this move, type in for no. Let me know in the comment section. Y for yes, in for no, if the Seahawks should sign Joe Schobert. Now, personally, I'm not opposed to this idea. I'll be honest, this was not something that I was thinking of, that I had in mind, but the more I read into this, it makes sense for a few reasons. We'll dive into those reasons here in just a second. The numbers on Schobert: he was a 4th-round pick out of Wisconsin in 2016. He's played in 93 career games to this point and started in 80 of those. His career statistics include 661 tackles, a tackling machine, 23 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, 10 interceptions, 10 forced fumbles, and 26 QB hits. Now, you may be asking, where would he slide in to this Seahawks defense? As you can see, the active roster right now puts Tanner Muse as a backup inside linebacker, as well as Nick Bellore, who also is the Seahawks starting fullback. I can tell you this right now. I would take Joe Schobert over Tanner Muse, no question about it. Tanner Muse should be on the practice squad right now. Joe Schobert, I would give that spot to. He ought to be your backup inside linebacker with being available. And then Nick Bellore, remember, he's doing special team stuff too. You don't want to wear him out too much. So you bring in Joe Schobert. Even if you decide to keep Tanner Muse, there's another rotational piece. You have to have a lot of options to be able to rotate in, keep guys fresh. To me, I think Joe Schobert would be a natural fit to slide in to that linebacking core there for Seattle, quite frankly. More on this potential move in just a second. Today's show is presented by BetUS, the exclusive sportsbook partner of Chat Sports. You go to chatsports.com/bet, and you can get a 125% deposit bonus. You put $100 down, They'll give you $125 to spend for free when you use the promo code Seahawks125 at checkout at chatsports.com/bet. You can bet on this weekend's matchup between Seattle and Detroit. The Lions, the early favorites, according to BetUS, at 4.5. I think that's a bit too high. Even if you have Detroit winning this game, I don't think they're winning by 4.5. Seahawks are going to cover. Over-under, very high at 50.5. They think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. I don't know if it's going to be that high-scoring. 50.5 is a lot of points, but we'll see. Get your bets in now. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Seahawks125. And speaking of predictions and the score, go ahead and drop your bet in for me. What are you going to bet on BetUS? What's the score going to be on Sunday of this game? Predict it for me in the comments section for Sunday's matchup against the Lions, and let me know. More statistics for you on Joe Schobert over the last 4 seasons. You can see he's had 4 straight seasons of 100-plus tackles. And remember, he's been doing it in different schemes. We've seen him over the last few years play for Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Those teams, it hasn't mattered what scheme he's been in. He's been able to execute and get involved and get tackles. I mean, 2020 was a really solid year for him when he was able to have 10 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and 141 tackles. So you can see the production has been there. The PFF grades for Schobert last year, not anything that jumps off the wall by any means. His defensive grade, 52.1. His run defense grade was 48.3. Tackling grade, the highest of all of them, at 59.1. The pass rush grade at 53.9, and the coverage grade at 57.2. So of those PFF numbers, you can see there's not one thing that he does at a very high level, but he kind of is just an all-around type player. There's not a huge gap, as you can see statistically, to what we typically see in the PFF grades of most players when it comes to each category, breaking them down piece by piece. Now, the scouting report that was done by Bleacher Report not too long ago on Joe Schobert when he was finishing up his time in Pittsburgh at the end of last year, this is what Bleacher Report said. His coverage continues to be a sore spot. Schobert has never been the most athletic inside linebacker, but he had a knack for getting into throwing lanes and being in the right spot. However, his performance against the pass has been a concern for 2 straight seasons. So what this article also was talking about was players that are past their prime. Look, if Seattle brings in Joe Schobert here, they are not getting the Pro Bowl linebacker of 2017. What they would be getting is a rotational piece to be a backup linebacker that's coming off all of those 100-yard tackle seasons. If that's what you're asking for, if you're looking for a rotational piece, a guy that can come in, provide depth, absolutely. Joe Schobert is your guy. If you're content with getting that rotational piece, yeah, that's great. If you're looking for him to be the Pro Bowl player that he was a couple of years ago, that's not happening. So if the expectations are realistic here, then, yeah, Joe Schobert is a home run signing, and hopefully it doesn't cost you too much. I would sign Joe Schobert. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Seahawks team. What say you? Would you sign Joe Schobert? Would you sign somebody else? Let me know in the comments section. Name a player the Seahawks should look at that they should sign right now to add to this Seahawks roster. Give me a name, whether it's Joe Schobert. Maybe it was one of the other guys the Seahawks worked out, like Blake Lynch or Marcus Henry. Let me know in the comments section below. As always, you can follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Tyler Jones Live, talking about your Seattle Seahawks on all those social media platforms all the time. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today.